This is Danish-InfoNewsTv, your Danish English news updates. Good evening and welcome to Danish-InfoNewsTv, your source for the latest updates from Denmark and beyond. Let's look at tonight's top stories. A 42-year-old man who is suspected of organizing an attack on Jewish targets in Germany has been taken into custody by Danish authorities. In the course of a border control operation, customs officers confiscated an incredible 18,000 Viagra pills. 2 men are taken into custody by Copenhagen police as part of a significant money laundering investigation. As we provide you with all the information on these stories and more, stay tuned. We will begin with our first of our main story. Danish police work with German authorities on suspected terror plans and murder attempts. A 42-year-old Afghan man from Aarhus was taken into custody by East Jutland police. On Wednesday, November 5th, the police collaborated with German authorities and PET. Due to an attempted murder, he is currently in an absentia custody in Germany. While considering his extradition, a judge in Aarhus considered whether to keep him in Danish custody. He allegedly promised to give a weapon to a man who intended to give it to a third party for attacks on German Jews, according to German authorities. Danish police also took part in the investigation of a planned terror attack targeting Jewish or Israeli sites in Copenhagen. According to a report released by German authorities on November 12th. PET confirms that searches were conducted at several addresses and that a terror suspect who lives in Denmark has been involved. Germany has requested the charging of another Danish citizen, but no extradition request has been made. Now, to the second of our main story, Saturday, November 8th. Significant illegal Viagra seizure. A van carrying over 18,000 Viagra pills and other illegal drugs was halted by customs officials during a random October check at the Danish-German border. The seizure reveals a rising pattern of illicit drug trafficking. Ane Halsbo-Jørgensen, the Minister of Taxes, underlined the risk. Illegal drugs can be dangerous and smugglers put profit before safety. Only private use medications are permitted across the border and non-EU visitors must adhere to more stringent regulations. South and Southern Jutland police were given the pills to look into further. Now to the last of our main stories. Tuesday, November 11, 2 men are taken into custody by Copenhagen police in a significant money laundering case. A 27-year-old and a 28-year-old were detained by Copenhagen police and accused of laundering at least 50 million Danish kroner. An ongoing investigation into a larger money laundering network includes the arrests. 9 people were arrested and 17 addresses were searched during a significant raid in November of last year. 18 people have since been charged. In this case, and 2 key suspects were found guilty earlier this year. New charges have been brought against the recently arrested men because of their connections to past offenders and ongoing criminal activity. According to Vice Police Inspector Peter Reis, today's arrests are a crucial step in putting an end to money laundering operations, which frequently serves as a cover for other crimes. A custody hearing for the men is planned for Copenhagen. Now to some other news. We begin on Thursday, November 6. 26-year-old imprisoned for armor shooting. He allegedly gave the shooter instructions and provided a gun and a bike. The 22-year-old victim is alive. A 24-year-old who was found in possession of drugs and weapons In Els and Esbjerg, police discovered 800 grams of amphetamines along with firearms. 3 teenagers are facing jail time for assault in Aarhus after allegedly beating 2 boys in a forest and threatening them with a knife. At least 62 stab wounds and machete murder charge have been brought against a 21-year-old in Hvidovre. Østre Landsret overturned the acquittal of a 49-year-old who was found guilty of rape. The woman was asleep at the time. 2 men are accused of stealing 850,000 Danish krone worth of salmon from Hertsholz harbor. In the first 3 days, 6 calls were placed on the politician's police hotline. Following a risky test drive in Køge, the Tesla was seized. The court authorized the seizure. Danish ministers will travel to Brazil for the COP30 with Queen Mary. Local Energy will reimburse customers after being fined 1,500 Danish kroner for unlawful consolation fees. Danish shopping malls in Køge and Albertslund are being taken over by an Israeli company. Student organizations object to the government's plan to switch from the current 7-step grading system to an 8-step one. The Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen moves on Friday, but she won't disclose the new municipality. A 32-year-old was sentenced for 27 crimes on Bornholm: burglary, theft, fraud, illegal weapons, and drugs. 15 months in prison. 3 men were jailed for hotel rape in Frederiksberg and are permanently deported. A 70-year-old woman dies as a result of crashing into a house in Voldum. Opioid use rises among teenage girls, nearly equal to boys. Hash is the most common. A serious traffic accident occurred near the Danish-German border, resulting in 2 hospitalized individuals and 2 minor injuries. Authorities warn of likely cyber attacks during the November 18 election. A 15-plus age limit is agreed upon for social media use. Parents may allow 13-plus. Sundhedsstyrelsen fails Køge Hospital's ortho department for doctor training issues. Vaccines reduce elderly influenza death and hospitalization 63% and 47%. Extra police were deployed on J-Day to ensure a safe nightlife. The government plans easier mortgage in rural areas with high loan-to-income ratios. Saturday, November 8. A woman drives into a stream in Lunderskov. Alcohol is suspected and she is arrested for DUI. Man stabbed in Copenhagen's Gammeltorv. Condition unknown, no arrests yet. The government plans stricter short-term rental rules. Platforms must report rental days. Record Syrian voluntary repatriation. 523 returned January through September of 2025 versus 94 in 2024. There are significant disparities in early retirement pensions among municipalities, with Gribskov exhibiting the lowest performance. Dow installs 1,500 new red mailboxes, replacing PostNord for 2026 deliveries via app. Sunday, November 9. Lowest number of asylum seekers in 3 years. Under 1,500 in January through September. Largest groups from Eritrea, Afghanistan, and Syria. Of the 24,000 offenders, 3,800 passengers without a CPR number owe nearly 50 million Danish krone in train fees. The government cracks down on illegal year-round or oversized allotment houses. Fines and enforcement are to increase. Still on housing, more cooperative housing and its bullia is planned to increase supply. Sperm banks reject donors with IQ below 85 or criminal records. Donor Network, Denmark. Monday, November 10th. Vandalism occurred at a Jewish cemetery in Ranas, resulting in toppling of 3 gravestones. A care worker was charged with stealing morphine at the Ishoy Care Center and replacing it with water. In a tragic accident, a 4-year-old child died in a crash on the Fyn motorway. A 27-year-old also lost their life, and 2 others were seriously injured. A man was jailed for sharing naked film scenes online, and his sentence was suspended for 7 months. Tumult before the court hearing for the Ishoy murder. One suspect jailed for 4 weeks, the other temporarily held. A 50-year-old man dies in Odense house fire. No foul play is suspected. An Aarhus doctor vaccinated a patient without consent, COVID instead of flu. Grace Copenhagen opens a winter shelter with extended hours for the homeless. Nitrous oxide is now illegal for drivers. Blood presence is sufficient for charges. 471 drivers caught speeding at Gullborg Tunnel, 96 license points, 2 conditional revocations. The Greenland government agrees on the 2026 budget. The Middelfart children's director was officially fired after school registration errors. Norma, the Michelin restaurant, receives a warning for importing jasmine tea without approval. Tuesday, November 11th. An 18-year-old terror suspect claims he felt pressure to attack the Israeli embassy and is being tried alongside a 21-year-old. 28th Danish package to Ukraine, 1.4 billion Danish krona, totaling support 70.8 billion Danish krona. Novo Nordisk to lower the Wegovy price in India by up to 37% to compete with Eli Lilly. A 44-year-old was charged with neglect homicide at a care home due to a scalding accident. The High Court upholds the conviction of a 31-year-old ex-teaching assistant who filmed underage girls. 8 youth charged with violent, happy slapping in Odense. A 32-year-old was jailed for 2 years for trying to grab a police gun and is considering an appeal. Driver loses both legs in Tinglew train truck crash. More non-Western immigrants employed, 61.8% now versus 58.7% in 2022. The Foreign Ministry lifts most Israel travel warnings. 57% of women report maternity leave harms careers, Juve survey. Now to news from Wednesday, November 12th. Danish man jailed in France for child abuse, custody since May. A family in Holstebro must pay 8,000 krona to bring home the body of their 52-year-old son from Copenhagen's Rigshospitalet. The man died in a serious fire at his home, and Region Midtjylland has refused to cover the transport costs. In Vordingborg, a shoplifting attempt at a Lidl store turned violent. The suspect struck a customer multiple times while trying to steal items and then fled the scene. Police are now investigating the incident. Climate activists slashed the tires of electric vehicles in Frederiksberg and left notes protesting the CO2 emissions from SUVs. Jyllands-Post journalists return after a strike over 17 layoffs. A surgeon was criticized for the wrong vein construction at Kolding Hospital. 33-year-old jailed for the burglary of a wine bar in Istanbul. Knives and stolen cash found. There has been a rise in residential burglaries in eastern Jutland, with Aarhus being the hardest hit area. Today is the women's last paid workday. An average 12.9% pay gap means women effectively work for free from today. Now to Danish business updates from November 6th through 13th. Skat.dk opens payment adjustments. Danes can now update their 2026 tax payments. Housing market declines. Nationwide listings are now down 14% versus last year. The biggest drop are in Copenhagen, Frederiksberg and Aarhus, 36 to 51% for apartments. Danes are among Europe's most active bank switchers. 23% changed banks over the past 5 years. 25% consider switching. Mata sets customer record. Revenue rises to 1.94 billion Danish krona, 500,000 more Nordic customers. Jensen's Buffhus closes. The remaining 15 restaurants are to be rebranded under Bones. Novo Nordisk pauses campaign. The initiative aimed at overweight menopause women was suspended after criticism. Zealand farmer shares drop 10%. Eli Lilly's weight loss study shows up to 20% reduction over 48 weeks. Novo signs US price deal. Agreement announced for lower diabetes and obesity medication costs. Novo loses Metsera bid to Pfizer. Pfizer acquires weight loss company. A rise in Danish export to the US. September exports reach 31.8 billion Danish krona, up approximately 10% from August of 2025. Mass profit raises. Third quarter profit is 71.14 billion Danish krona. The company raises the lower bound of its annual forecast. DFDS cut 400 jobs, CEO to leave. The cost-saving program begins after lowering a 2025 operating profit expectations. Bavarian Nordic acquisition cancelled. Innosora APS withdraws bid. Teradyne Robotics has laid off 100 employees in Odense as part of a 14% reduction in its global workforce. Previously, there were 52 layoffs in the same location. Copenhagen Airport's profit is up. Pre-tax profit is 1.26 billion Danish krona, and 19% higher than last year. That concludes tonight's top news on Danish-InfoNewsTv. We'll continue to follow these stories closely and bring you updates as they develop. Thank you for watching and stay informed with Danish-InfoNewsTv, your window into Denmark's latest headlines.